Good morning. As you said, my name is Kasper Valgren. I am the VP of Revenue at FlightLogger. The goal with today is to give all of you a little realistic view into what flight training actually looks like in 2026. So for me, I'm not going to maybe focus a lot on the cockpit perspective, but more on the operational side, which is what most students never see. My belief is that the systems that the flight schools use, they determine whether training feels smooth or frustrating. So for me, if there's any aspiring pilots in here, I'm sure we have some, or an academy leader thinking about what's next in the way that they should run their business, I hope that you guys get a little out of this little presentation. So first of all, why am I speaking up? Why am I the one up here speaking about this? Number one, I'm not a pilot. I've only ever sat on an airplane in the cockpit once, and the flight instructor forced me to try and land it. It was an interesting experience. So I'm not going to tell you how to fly an airplane, and I'm definitely not going to try to act like I know how to fly an airplane. But what I do is I work with academies all over the world. So FlightLogger, the company I represent, is a flight training management platform. So we support flight schools internationally. I like to say that FlightLogger never sleeps. We have customers from New Zealand all the way through Asia, Europe, Africa, North, South, and Central America. So there's always someone using FlightLogger in the world at any given time. And because of this, I don't necessarily have the know-how on how to fly an airplane, but I can talk about what flight academies experience when using a tool like ours. So I like to, notice patterns. I get to see what works at scale, but I also get to see the things that don't work. So my belief is that a modern flight academy will have students come in, they'll see their day-to-day through the cockpit and the classroom, but they never really get to see that underlying machinery. And that's what we'll talk about today. So for any future aspiring pilots, I'm going to talk about how potentially you can pick a flight school in the future and maybe ask the right questions as you interview around and find the right place for you to start your education so that you can go from A to airline like our first speaker spoke about before. So I'll start with a simple story. So imagine we have two students that start training in 2026. They have the same dream, the same ambition, the same financial investment. Student A trains at a flight academy, which is quite structured. You've got clear schedules, you've got visibility into aircraft availability, consistent grading among flight instructors, and fast communication if anything goes wrong, if the weather is bad. For that student, confidence builds, momentum goes up, and that student will finish close to their projected timeline. When it comes to student B, they chose a different kind of flight school. There were frequent cancellations. Aircraft were grounded unexpectedly. Instructors gave different kinds of feedback, and scheduling most of all seemed reactive. That student's momentum definitely dropped. The confidence went down, and they finished months after they wanted to. So if we look at those students, again, their ambition was the same, the talent was the same, but the operational backbone of the school they attended was different. So really quickly, the lights are bright, but how many in here are aspiring pilots? How many hope to be a pilot? Put your hands up, please. Great. Okay, perfect. So we'll play a little game. So how many of you have visited at least one flight school? Put your hands up and keep them up. Okay. I'll try and go a little quick so you don't have to hold them up forever. How many have visited two flight schools? Keep your hands up. Okay. How about 3? Okay, we have the really go-getters around here. 4? Okay, cool, great. First of all, this was great. What I saw from here is that most people, they evaluate schools like they're buying a car. I just bought one, so I kind of know how it goes. They look at fleet size, they look at branding, they look at marketing. Those things are great. But after today, I hope that you'll be able to evaluate those schools a little bit differently. Well, at least I hope you will. I've had the great opportunity to be at the trade show, for a couple hours now. I'm fortunate enough to have plenty of partners here. So I'm not going to present a lot of those up there because that'd be unfair, but come by if you want to have a chat about some potential flight schools. So, when you go out and visit a flight school, I really hope that you're going to start asking different questions as well. So, if you look at the branding, the marketing, the fleet size, you'll get a very one-sided picture. If you instead go out and ask this flight school, how often are your aircraft grounded? How many times do cancellations occur? Obviously, you can't control weather, but how often the flight instructor is sick? You're going to get an introduction into the back end of that flight school. And how do they operate? Are their students happy? Do they have the ability to build momentum, confidence, and finish on time? So, the new reality of pilot training is that it looks different. It looks different from it was 15 years ago. Aircrafts are more digital. Regulations are a lot tighter. Airlines are getting closer to the airline academies, and they expect competency, not just flight hours. So students are often investing well over 100,000 euros to complete their school. So with this new training that has been professionalized, it is the academies that run in these ways that succeed, and they need this structure and discipline that we're talking about. So what training really is. Pilot training is a coordinated system. Again, I'm going to take the romance out of flying a little bit, because for me, it's all about the practicalities. Every training day depends on students being ready, instructors being available, aircraft being serviceable, weather cooperating, we can't control that, but maintenance alignment, compliance, documentation being in order. If one of those elements fail in a given day, the entire day collapses. Most training delays are not caused by the students. They're caused by operational bottlenecks. So, we talked about two different student experiences. We'll talk about two different academies. So here we've got top schools and average schools. So I'll give you an example, and this is a real-world example. I'm not going to mention any names, but again, I have the opportunity to speak to flight academies, and we had an academy that came to us. They're a mid-sized European flight school, flight academy. They had 22 aircraft, about 180 students at that time. So scheduling was manual. They were using spreadsheets. Excel is great, but it's great for shopping lists, in my opinion, and it gets difficult at scale. So there was no real-time defect visibility, and the result was that for their students, there was a 3-month average delay in completion. That's quite a long time if you're wanting to get out. Students were frustrated, instructors felt overloaded, and airline partners, they started asking questions. So after they came and had a little chat with us, and we got them a little bit more digitalized, they now had a centralized scheduling hub. They were able to have a singular area that was digital, easy, and everybody worked from the same updated area. There was real-time aircraft availability, and standardized grading happened across all students. Average completion time got reduced significantly. We're still seeing what the exact numbers are, but it's less than 3 months, and the airline relationship was strengthened. And obviously, student satisfaction went way up. So, a day in a modern academy. A well-run academy today, the experience looks differently because you can wake up in the morning as a student, you pull out your phone, you check your schedule, you know exactly what the aircraft status is, if it's actually flying. You can review the feedbacks from your former lesson and see, okay, cool, there were some things I need to improve here. You know exactly what the objective of the lesson today is and what you're going out to do. And after the flight, grading is immediate, structured, and documented. So there's more momentum, and momentum is everything for your future education. I need to I need to hurry up, I think, here. But more, so we're training breakdowns. The most common failure points, I think, in flight training, what we see from the data is scheduling bottlenecks, instructor inconsistency, aircraft downtime, communication gaps, and lack of transparency. So scheduling really is a hidden engine. Scheduling is not admin work. It is strategic capacity management. And it might sound really boring to a future student, but it's everything for education. So when a scheduler in a flight school is working, it is a lot more difficult than flying an airplane, at least in my opinion. They have to match student progression stages. They have to match instructor qualifications, aircraft types, weather windows, regulatory limits. This can't be handled by a basic tool like this grocery list tool we spoke about before. Spreadsheets are useful. They're not built to build or to run airline-level academies. So today, we think about flight training and we think about flying. At scale, it's actually more about logistics. So, transparent progress tracking. The old school model was obviously paper grading. That is, and when I say old school, that still happens today across the world. The modern version is digital, where you can track your competencies, you can see where you stand, which competencies are improving, what you need to work on, and what come next. The problem is, I think for a lot of students, is when they are in a situation, one student says they're doing great, and another said that they should redo everything. Suddenly, you question the entire aviation career you stepped into. So, standard grading matters because it builds trust and transparency. This is a very important one. So, availability, aircraft availability matters more than fleet size. If you ask, how many aircraft do you have? That's a very good question to ask a flight school, but you have to go the level deeper because some schools advertise fleet sizes like dealerships. You know, we have 20 aircraft, we have 100 aircraft, we have 1,000 aircraft, we're amazing. But the better question to ask when you go out and interview a flight school is, how many are actually consistently flying? Because parked aircraft do not build hours. Reliable fleet management creates predictable training. And predictability reduces stress and delays. Communication is even more important. Disruption always happens. Weather changes, maintenance problems occur, instructors get sick. The difference in how academies communicate are pretty huge. Some academies, they notify students immediately and clearly, and other academies, they react slowly. Professionalism is felt through coordination and communication. Double, there we go. And technology, last of all, is the backbone. Spreadsheets are useful. Again, they're amazing. But what you need is a connected platform where you can have that consistency and trust. So, again, for all those future pilots out there, these are the questions that you should be asking. So you can take a picture if you'd like. I think these are important. There's going to be many more. Again, truthfully, I'm a guy who sells software, but you can always come down to the booth and ask interview questions. We'd love to have a chat with you guys. So, if you're choosing schools right now, you want to ask, can I track my progress online? Super important. How do you standardize, or how do you handle defects in aircraft downtime? How do you standardize instructor grading? How do you manage cancellations and delays? And do you operate like an airline? So if you're choosing a school, asking those questions, and if you listen carefully, you'll actually find out what they do. If they say we handle it manually, it depends. We manage it case by case. You should be stressed and think about it. The strong answers would be, we have a system. Here's how we track our progress. And even better, they show you all of it live and say, this is how we do it. This is how you're going to be cooperating. I just had a bunch of students come up to our booth here, speaking to my colleague Lucas and I, tell us how much they love being able to have the visibility into their education. That always warms my heart. It's amazing. One thing is academy partners, but students actually have an insight into FlightLogger, and seeing it is really, really fun. So, structured academies, they build momentum and confidence and readiness. The good news is that aviation has never been more structured. The bad news is that expectations have never been higher either. Becoming a pilot in 2026 is definitely not only about flying. Structured Academy, they build momentum, confidence, and readiness. So choose a school that operates like an airline that you would join. So I'm thankful that I was able to speak to you guys. If you have any questions, I can take them through the Slido app, but if not, come see me down at booth G2 at FlightLogger. Thank you.